Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Pycon APAC 2024 for third host here at Nahdlatul Ulama University, Yogyakarta. My name is Ali Pratama, and I will be your moderator for this session. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's event, Iskandar Setiadi. He is an engineer manager at Henge, and today we are fortunate to have him here at Pycon APAC, where he will be sharing insights on Python code quality assurance. Please join me in welcoming Iskandar Setiadi.
Thank you. So yeah, before started, I will read this first. So my name is Iskandar Setiadi, and the title of my talk is Python Code Quality Assurance. I hereby agree to abide by the Python APAC Code of Conduct and consent to being recorded and streamed. Okay. So yeah, again, thank you everyone for joining this session. I know that everyone have just had lunch, most likely, and probably you are feeling sleepy, but I hope, yeah, you can like follow my presentation session today. So for today, I want to talk about Python code quality assurance. And actually, yeah, before started, let me start with some self introduction. Have anyone ever like attended my session before, or this is first time for everyone? Very first time. Okay, so actually this is the fourth time I became a speaker in Python in Indonesia, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Actually, the first time I became speaker was PyCon Indonesia in 2017, and I think that's also the first PyCon in Indonesia in Surabaya. And I also gave a talk in 2019, then last year in Bandung, and finally this year in Yogyakarta, also the first APAC. So yeah, I'm very grateful for this opportunity. This is a self introduction. So I was originally born in Jakarta. I'm also an Indonesian. Yeah, I think some people got confused. Oh, are you actually Indonesian or not? But I'm actually an Indonesian. And I graduated from Informatika ITB 2015. And now I'm working as the division manager in Henge. I also sometimes still calls myself a software engineer because at the core of my heart, I still like coding. And yeah, I've also been like attended a lot of PyCons around the world. For Japan, I also help for the proposal reviewer. I also like help with the events itself, like the sprint. And I've also been to PyCon in Malaysia, Hong Kong, Italy. And actually, we are like one of the sponsors. So in case if you haven't like visited our booth on the second floor, yeah, please visit us. We came like more than 12 hours actually. So actually there's no direct flight to Yogyakarta, so we need to like transit from Jakarta first. But yeah, this is just like the maps. Anyway, and this is actually very closely related to the keynote talk that we have today. Like one of the reason why I want to become a speaker in Python is because of the community. I can meet everyone here. I can like share knowledge, and I can also learn something new in return. Uh, so for today's topic, yeah, just to give kind of expectation matching. So actually, today's topic is not really in-depth explanation. So if you've been using Python for 10 years, I don't think this talk might be interesting for you. But if you are just like a beginner or intermediate who like started using Python in professional situation, this talk might be useful for you. Yeah. And I think the first question is like code quality. Why do we need to care about code quality? Have anyone like read this, the Zen of Python? How many people know Zen of Python? Okay, probably few, not much. Okay, actually, this is Zen of Python. I forgot what is the comment, but basically you can actually also read it in your Python console. And I highlighted like the three, like the bold letter one. Explicit is better than implicit. Readability counts. There should be one and preferably only one ways to do it. Like why I bold those sentences. Yeah, we will go through it. Talking about code base. Code base is not only containing features that we want to deliver to the customers. it also contains like a lot of other things. It contains to-do, hidden bugs, missing features, duplicated code. Uh, Also, sometimes you just copy paste the code from Stack Overflow, and there's like sometimes there's a comment, do not touch this code. Yeah. The last time I changed this code, please increment this counter. Yeah, those kind of things. And then documentation and so on. So there's a lot of things inside the code that we need to care, and it's not only about the features. And when we are like starting a new project, I think we just like virtual end of like just bootstrap. It's very simple. It's very easy. But like after months, after years, we have more engineers joining our team, and there's a lot of like, how do I say, dependencies got added, and I think this is where code quality becomes a topic. So there are a lot of things why we need to care about code quality. One is definitely how we can scale our team, our development team. We also want to reduce the bugs. We want to improve the code performance. We want also to increase the development speed. And code quality is not only talking about the feature, but we are also talking about the security and the dependencies inside the project. The next question is how we can maintain code quality then. I think the obvious answer is writing tests. Like everyone will just say, okay, let's write tests, ensure that it has 90% coverage. And what I want to talk here is something beyond writing tests. Like what can we add in top of writing tests? And one thing that I think is important is once you work in the team, you want to standardize the common kind of toolings that you use among members in the team. And why this is important? Have anyone seen this diagram before? Like we have like package management, like PIP, we have like environment management, like virtual env or FM. And sometimes you want to manage like multiple versions of Python in your PC, then you use PyEnv. Then if you want to publish it to PyPy, then you use Twine, and you also use setup tools for build your package. And yeah, for today, I actually want to talk somewhere in the middle here. How many of you use Point3 or PDM? 1, 2, 4, 5? Only 5? How many of you have tried tools called Rye? Or do you know about Rye? Oh, okay. So yeah, so actually, I'm not particularly want to talk about Rye itself, but yeah, just let me introduce it a bit. So Rye is actually written by Mitsuhiko, and it's actually also written in Rust, actually. So this is a bit like comparison. If you're already using Poetry, pretty much they are almost the same, except the Rye also supports like formatter and linter with Rust. You can see like the comment like Rye build, Rye sync, Rye FMT, Rye lin, and so on. And yeah, but yeah, as I said, I actually don't want to talk about Rye itself. How many of you have tried UV? Okay, I think probably there's more, right? Yeah. So actually, Rye itself is got acquired by Astral, and the maintainer of the project says they want to kind of migrate Rye users to UV at one point. And actually, the original writer of the UV itself says that the original goal is to make a final release of Rye to let everyone move seamlessly to UV. But there are still, how do I say, some features which are in Rye, not exist yet in UV. So probably this will still take some time, but let's see. Anyway, I will just show some examples in Rye for the Python code quality improvement things. Yeah, one thing that I like from Rye is it has a feature that similar to PyEnv. How many of you have used PyEnv before? Oh, okay, yeah, 5 people, 6 people. Then for people who don't use PyEnv, how do you manage multiple versions of Python in your laptop, or you don't? Okay. Anyway, usually when you work with multiple projects, you want to have the flexibility of switching between different Python versions because you want to lock the version when you work with other members. And one way is using PyEnv, but nowadays you can also use tools like Rye or UV to do these kind of things. So you can do something like write toolchain list, write toolchain include downloadable, where you can see all versions that you can download. This screenshot is a bit old. It doesn't show 3.13 yet, but yeah, that's kind of the point. And then, yeah, one thing that I want to say here is if you haven't used any linters or formatters in your project, please start using it. How many of you have used like linters and formatters in the project, like Black, for example, Pylin? Okay, quite a lot. So probably this talk may be too easy. Probably I don't need to talk, but anyway. So one example of what linters tries to do is it tries to see any potentials for bugs in your code. So for example, in my code here, I have like a code that say if one is true, return true. So for numerical comparison, we are not expected to use is. We need to use the, how do you say it? Double. Yeah. So you need to use this kind of operation. So if you use linter, like Pylin, they can also do this, but I just want to show with tools like write-lin, you can also do something similar, and you can also add a comment like write-lin fix, and it will automatically fix the code for you. And yeah, this is like the correct way to write it, right? For example, then this is also the formatter. So let's say if you have like indentation error, you can also do something like write formatter check, and you can also if you just want to dry run it, you can add the diff comment to see the difference, and you can also like just run the write formatter to automatically format it. And why I want to say that please use linter and formatters is because when you are working with other members in your team, I think it's very easy for members to have like different way of writing code, and it's very easy to miss some details. So by using this kind of tools, you can actually improve the quality of your code by adding some checks before, let's say, you push the code to the GitHub, let's say. And how about typing in Python? How many of you are familiar with typing in Python? I think, yeah, a lot, more than half, more than half. It's nice, yeah. So historically, Python is a dynamic typing, and they introduced typing back in 2015, roughly around Python 3.5. And almost for every iterations of new Python versions, like 3.6, 3.7, 3.9, 3.10, they always try to improve the typing features. And actually, they want to do another typing improvement in 3.14, like the next major version. They want to introduce the different evaluations of annotations. But yeah, anyway, that's not the main point. For the type checkers, how many of you have used MyPy, Pyrite, or Pyre? Oh, okay, 3, 4. But how many of you know about these tools? Probably not much. Okay, so even the typing in Python is not really enforced. When you work in the team, you want to kind of make it more strict because you want to make sure that if this function accepts integer, it actually get passed with integer. So those kind of tools is very helpful, and this is just like the comparison between these three tools and what kind of use cases is good. Personally, I like using Pyrite. I think Pyrite is kind of the balance between MyPy and Pyre. Pyre is very, how do I say? It's designed for less scale code bases, while for MyPy it has less strict checks. So I also there's no integration with the VS Code, native integration with VS Code. So I actually like Pyrite better. And yeah, actually, because the tools, it's the write and wrap doesn't include the type checker yet. If you want to install it, you need to add something like write at --dev Pyrite. And then let's say this is the code example. Can you guess like what's wrong with this code? Like I have a function called process number that accepts a variable called value, which the type is integer. And this is the function. What do you think is the problem with this function? Any guess? No? Yeah, the input is float, right? So if you use tools like Pyrite, it will say run Pyrite, then it will say that argument of type float cannot be assigned to parameter value of type int. So using this kind of type checker tools, you can make sure that the function actually match with what we expect it to do. And I think this is a very good tools to also catch possible bugs in your code. So now if I change the type into this, then it will pass because now it expects either integer or float properly as a type. And how about this one? What do you think is wrong with this function? Actually, there's an answer below, but yeah. So, okay. Anyway, I should put this on different slide. But anyway, so for this function, if you see, this is pretty similar to the previous one, except I just removed the else if, the elif part, where now it only has if instance value is integer, then return. But if you run the Pyrite, then it will say function with declared return type string must return value on all code paths. So here it doesn't have a default return. It doesn't know how to handle when you pass a float to the value. So this is like two simple examples where having a type checker tools can be very useful for your projects. And yeah, as I said before, one thing that we also want to add on top of it is we want to automate the checks before we commit code. How many of you use pre-commit? Okay, there are more, like 10 people. Yeah. So one good thing about pre-commit is before you do, let's say, git commit, it will run what you define in the YAML file here. So let's say you want to run the linter, you want to run the formatter, it can do it for you and make sure it passes the check before it allows you to commit. And I think that is very useful. So before you run the whole thing in CI, you can see it from your local PC if there's any problem. And yeah, this is the example. Let's say if there's a failure in the format, it will do something like this when you want to commit. Yeah, this is with the pre-commit insult. And another thing that I want to talk is to automate the dependencies update. I guess how many of you use Renovate or Dependabot? Okay, more. Yeah, nice. Which one do you use, Renovate or Dependabot? Dependabot. Okay. Do you know about Renovate? No, probably. Okay. So yeah, what I want also to talk about Renovate today is because actually for UV it doesn't have a native support yet with Dependabot, but it already supports Renovate. And this is just like some comparison between the features of Renovate and Dependabot. So if you use GitHub, I think it makes total sense if you use Dependabot because it's native integrations. But if you store your code base in, let's say, GitLab or other repositories, then Renovate is very good to use. And I actually like Renovate better because it's more highly configurable and it also support more advanced scheduling. Yeah, you can see if you just compare it like side by side, Renovate is more powerful than Dependabot in general. But anyway, what I want to say here is when you have a lot of dependencies, I think it's very hard to update. I remember that one time I updated my dependencies after 6 months and everything just falling apart. Or sometimes it doesn't fall apart, but suddenly when you run the code, you suddenly notice the performance becomes like very weird because you miss some configuration changes in between. And I really like to automate the dependencies update also because if you do updates more frequently, that will also, how do I say, help you to catch this kind of issues faster. You don't need to wait for the whole 6 months until you notice there's a problem with your code. Yeah, and the next one is about the security itself. Yeah, I also want to talk about managing security as part of maintaining code quality. So I guess this is a question for everyone, kind of like when was the last time you updated your Python dependencies in your project? I think if you don't use tools like Renovate or Dependabot, the answer is maybe never. or only when you add a new dependency you will update it. Yeah, anyway. There are a few ways where I think security can be improved with this kind of checks. For example, if you use Renovate, you can add the enable the vulnerability alert check, or if you use the Mendebot, you can use the applies to security update, for example. And how many of you use static code analytic tools in Python? Something like Bandit? No one. How about other tools? Other static code analysis? No. Okay. So what this tool is trying to do, it will check for your code statically, and it will see if there's any, how do I say, potential security vulnerabilities that is introduced in your code. So let's say if your code is still using MD5 as a hash, then the tools will say use of a weak MD5 hash for security. Consider either you should change the way you do this hashing, or you need to mark this as, oh, this is actually expected. So I think this kind of checks is quite useful to run. And yeah, I think this is also kind of the recommendation. If you can include security scanner tools like Nuclei or Zap in your project, in your CI, that will be useful. I actually gave a talk about this last year in the Pycon. So in case if you want to know more details about this, you can refer to my last year's slide. And yeah, as a summary, there are a lot of ways we can improve code quality. It's not about only writing a unit test. You can standardize the toolings among the member in your team. You can introduce linters, formatters, follow code standards like PEP-A or Flake or other coding standards. And you can introduce type annotations in your code base. You can use pre-commit to automate checks before committing your code. You can automatically update your dependencies with tools like Innovate or Dependabot. You can use the static code analysis tools like Bandit, and you can also introduce security scanner tools like Zap or Nuclei to your CI workflow, and many more. Yeah, I don't have enough time to go through all of them, but I think this is the core things that we can definitely do to improve our code quality. And yeah, at the end, just like a bit of self promotion for the company. So in Henge, we actually have a global internship program where we accept interns from all over the world. So if you are interested, you can see the details in the QR code. And for the slide itself, you can also access it in my website or from the QR code there. Yeah, I think you can take a photo first. Okay, then yeah, this is a bit of the explanation for the global internship program, where we will actually bring you to Japan, and we will have like 4 to 6 weeks of internship. And Henge, the company, will support you throughout all the process from the visa, round trip airfares, and so on. And that's it for today. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you again, Iskandar, for your insightful presentation. That was insightful talks. Please give a round of applause to our speakers today. We hope you found it insightful, and we encourage you to continue exploring Python in your projects. And a big thank you to everyone who participated today. Have a great day, and please wait for another session after this. Thank you.
Thank you.